What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 147 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors from all genres. I'm Megan, self proclaimed Cantina Queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author, sometimes a returning guest, sometimes it's someone new. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you can catch a previous interview about a book that you've finished. Today's episode features a chat with Marian Yee. We're talking about her book, Four Janes. That book is available now. I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I picked up this book. It just sounded really intriguing, especially because I really enjoyed Jane Eyre Wide Sargasso Sea. If you know, you know. With that being said, book readers will get more out of Four Janes if they've read Jane Eyre, or at least familiar with the overall storyline. And this book, Yee's book, kind of reimagines Jane as if, what life she might have lived if she didn't marry Rochester, and some other kind of historical fantasy aspects to that as well. So it was really fun talking with Marian about how she just developed this story and these unique elements, and just incorporated this unique retelling. And I just loved her prose, her writing style, a lot of quotable, powerful moments in the story. Now, some spoilers may or may not pop up in these conversations, but the episode is more enjoyable if you've read the book anyway. So if you don't know why I'm kind of giggling with Marian about some, nods and quips to those who are familiar with Jane Eyre and the story, then hit pause, add this episode to your playlist, pick up a copy of Four Janes. This interview will be ready when you are. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I am just saying what the fuck to the author for making me feel things. Just please be mindful for your own comfort level and around listening ears. And without further ado, get ready, grab your favorite drink. Here is Marian. So today we've got Marian Yee. We're talking about her book Four Janes that comes out on June 30th. Marian, thanks so much for chatting with me today. I just finished this book. It's fresh in my brain,
Oh,
and
thank you for reading it.
yeah, like absolutely. And I was not expecting like the beautiful, like I was sure you're talented, but just the prose, like the quotes, like just quotable passages were just, some of
Mhm.
it was just so beautiful, meaningful, and it touched me even though I'm white and I was born in like the late 80s. So it's like there's like elements of this that I can't really relate to, but it was just so wonderful to read this like historical fantasy. And I will say, readers will get more out of this if they are familiar with Jane Eyre, which I am, and the
Awesome.
Vietnam War, which less. So I just know that it was like really televised or like really reported for the first time. Like that was one
Absolutely.
of the first
Yes.
wars that was,
Yes.
and it was just like that kind of just catapulted
Mm,
American response, and that's why it was
mm,
so controversial and memorable and all that,
mhm.
as aside from the atrocities that happened. But a long-winded way to say I'm excited to dig deeper into this.
Absolutely. Yes. Readers will get more out of it if they had read Jane Eyre. But if you haven't, I'm hoping that readers will still be able to get something out of the heroines and their journeys. They're just that their stories will be self-contained enough for us to just to follow along
Yeah.
and be
And
the
there's just, like, details or, like, because I read Jane Eyre. I was an English major in college, and so that was one of the classics that we read, and
Mhm.
also Wide Sargasso Sea. I don't know if you're
Ah.
familiar with that.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
yes, and that I think I liked that a little bit more than Jane Eyre. I just think that both of them are just so powerful,
Yes.
but Wide Sargasso Sea was just like, "Oh, shit," and obviously you could swear. I'm gonna swear. So,
Okay.
is whatever you're feeling,
Please.
don't hold
Mhm.
yourself back.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just some of her quips, like, during some of their arguments, it was like, "What do you think I'm gonna lock you in the house?" She's like, "Haven't you done that before?"
Mhm.
It's like, "Oh my god."
Mhm. Yeah.
I was
Yes.
like there was, like, moments where it's like, yeah, like, maybe in a historical fiction, depending on, like, just the overall tone of your story, we know
like we readers get to know what to expect as they progress a little bit, but,
Mm,
like, it's that, like, little witty, like, little
mm,
one-liners. There are moments where I was like, "Oh my god," like, it was I just loved it. I love parts of
mm,
that where that's where, like, that's a reaction that if you haven't read Jane Eyre, you would not really pick up on that, like, quip, or at least it wouldn't
mm,
hit as hard. So,
mhm.
that's an example where I was like, "Oh my," I cackled out loud. I was like, "Oh my," because I write notes and everything, and I was like, "Oh my god, shots
Cool.
fired." Like,
I'm
I
hoping
just
that
yeah.
if people haven't read Jane Eyre, that they might be inspired to do it after reading this book, that they might think, "Oh, I would really like
Yeah,
to read Jane Eyre, the whole thing." But yes.
absolutely. Yeah, to before we get started, can you share a summary so that people kinda follow along with the conversation?
Sure. Think of it as if Jane Eyre had lived like four different lives, not just the one in Charlotte Bronte's version, but like beyond that. So four different lives in taking place in different places, taking place in a different time period, taking place in a different culture, even taking place under a different gender. So, like just four different storylines, but using elements of the original Jane Eyre source as a jumping off point.
Yeah, yeah, it was even reading, like, the back blurb, I was like, I like it obviously it intrigued me because I said, when Angela approached me about this opportunity, I was like, "Okay, yeah, like, it's pretty intriguing." It's like, "Yeah, let's check it out," and then I was like, "Okay." It was just I didn't really like, I wasn't expecting I didn't know what to expect, but it was a pleasant surprise, like, everything I
Hmm,
got out of it. So and I could tell so much work went into this, just keeping timelines straight. I imagine I don't
mm,
know if you had, like, Post-it notes on a wall somewhere, like, trying to organize yourself and your storytelling, and there's a couple things that I wanna touch on. First of all, I do want to explore not just the research, but how did, like, your writing style and this is your debut, so congrats, but, like, your writing style, not just for you personally, but adapting um, this modern like, your like, modern storytelling to relate to something that was a classic from hundreds of years ago, right? Or at least decades ago.
not
Yes?
19th, early
I
19th
forget what
century.
sorry, I
Mhm.
forget
Yeah,
when it was
that's fine.
published, but yeah. So, yeah, like, I wanna explore how you adapted your writing style, what, like, research you had to do, how you had to get in the zone, all that stuff.
Okay, yes. So four different Janes, so it's kind of like four different voices in a way. They're all the same Jane, but the earlier Jane, 19th century Jane, I wanted to capture her voice as a Victorian woman and be as close as possible to how Charlotte Bronte had her voice. But then the
Mhm.
Vietnamese Jane has a different kind of voice. But I also wanted her to have the Vietnamese Jane. I wanted her because because she is Vietnamese, but she is often interacting with English speaking people, and her English is pretty good, but it's not like fluent. But I wanted her to be fluent, so when she's thinking, and I have that in English, of course, she's thinking in completely grammatical, fluid sentences. That's her thought. That's how she's thinking. But sometimes when she has to speak to people, she'll use like simpler sentences, simpler syntax, and so forth. And for the last Jane, it was like I had to enter into the mindset of a young man, and that
Mhm.
was new to me, and it was
Yeah.
challenging. It helped that I've read a lot of literature from the point of view and voices of young men. I actually really enjoyed that kind of literature, so that was helpful to draw upon. But it was fun and challenging just to like try to get the voices and into the mindsets of each of these very different Janes.
Yeah, I love that because just I love that you had fun with that because
Hmm.
Vin's point of view was like I don't wanna say his was the most interesting, but I could you made it distinct, like, his inner like, his point of view where he was you could tell he was more modern, you could tell
Mm-hmm.
he was a younger, like, obviously, like and also you still captured, like, the his inner turmoil, like,
Oh,
his
thank
story
you.
was
Hmm.
heartbreaking, Trang's story was heartbreaking,
Mm.
Jane, we all know about Jane and how, like but I loved it was fun to, like, read your creative liberties as to, like, "Oh, what if she didn't marry Rochester? What if she did this? What if she did that?" And then you took it up a notch and like, oh, what if she's a time traveler? What if she's like
Mm,
seeing dreams and
mhm,
it's not,
mhm.
maybe she's suspicious that they're not dreams. Like, and it was just like all these connections. Like I'm writing all these notes, like, wait, oh my God, it's this person, like just as definitely stronger. Like during the last half of the book, you could tell my notes become a little more like unhinged or like a roller coaster
Mm,
of like emotions and realizations, because that's when like you kind of like put the first half to like kind of set the stage and let us know the story. But then the last half, you're just like, all right, I'm gonna put you guys through it, and then maybe I might
mm,
hold your hand
mhm,
through it. Like, you're like
mhm, mhm. Wow.
so I wasn't, yeah, I just wasn't expecting it to hit me that hard, but, like, by the end
Mm,
of it, I was just like I stayed up way too late because I wanted to finish it. That's that I'll say that, and that's a testament to a very good storytelling where I was
mhm.
like, I could just finish it right now. I could just finish. So I appreciate that. But I thought I'm glad you had fun because I could tell you had a little bit of fun with it, with
I
in
did.
particular.
I would love to see your books with all your notes and just to like follow you along as a reader because you sound
Oh
like you really
gosh.
get so involved. That's
I
wonderful.
know, I try. I do it, like, sometimes I do it even if I'm not interviewing, but I'm
Mhm,
supposed to, like, write a review, but
mm.
I it helps me just to, like even if I'm never gonna use these notes again, it just something about writing it down, like, helps brain processing. I do it,
Yeah.
like, at, like, even work, personal, like, to-do lists, this stuff, everything, I just write it down. It's just, it's something about the physical writing of it, so, like, it's good. I'm like, I'm not gonna if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like but yeah, I could take pictures, like, and send them to you, eventually if you're really interested, because it's like
That would
you
be
it's
so
hilarious
awesome.
to me. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanna explore your experiences as a debut author. Like, this is
Mm,
so exciting because 'cause I'm looking
mm.
I was, like, scoping out your website, and it looks like you've contributed, like, short stories to anthologies, yeah? And
Poetry and reviews.
so yeah, so I kinda wanna explore, like, your experience as a debut author, biggest lessons learned, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I've written other manuscripts, but this is my first novel that's being published, so that's pretty exciting. And I learned it's interesting. One of the things I learned about the process of being published is that you're in such a different place afterwards. As a writer, you're often alone. You're alone with your words, you're alone with your
Mm,
text, you're alone with your story. And then after the publisher picks it up, it's like you're not alone anymore. You've got an entire team. And that was great, but it also kind of took kind of getting used to. When you work with an
mm,
editor, a very involved editor, it's almost like you're collaborating with them. They tell you
yeah,
all your decisions in the end will be yours. But what they put forward is interesting. I found myself engaging with it, and it did feel strangely collaborative, which was new, as I said, because often I'm just working by myself all the time. So having all that support was a little bit bewildering, a little bit wonderful, a little bit like, oh, this is what writing is like on on the production end of it. It
yeah,
isn't you anymore. It's you and others working together. And that was interesting. And the other interesting thing is to think that all these words that are on your computer screen as you're working, I work on the screen. I know other people
mm,
write longhand, but it still feels
that's
very
wild.
it still feels very abstract, but then all of a sudden there's something solid at the end of it. There's a product, there's an actual book, and so that seemed magical, that transformation into actual object.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I know, I can't imagine. Like, how did you bring this story into the world? How long has it been living in your brain? Or maybe you've been playing around with it, maybe you wrote it 10 years ago and now you decided to do it? Like, what I wanna figure out your process because I think it's so fascinating as well.
The book has taken a long time to be written. I 10 years may not be wrong from start to finish, but the start part did begin like much earlier. And it happened during a trip to Vietnam that I took with my husband. And we ended up a long time ago, and we ended up in central Vietnam in Hue. And that's when we met this bookseller. She had this tiny little bookstall on the side of the road, and she was reading an abridged copy of Jane Eyre to teach herself English. So that
Oh my
image
god,
was
there we
just so
go.
that was so amazing in my mind. It was like here's this iconic Western text in the hands of, if you will, an Eastern reader, and it's like do these things belong? And it's like, yes, of course they do. But in my mind, it was like, how interesting. So what a strange, unexpected juxtaposition. And so that made me want to write something, write something in a way that would actually bring these two worlds together,
Yeah.
maybe even literally together. So that was the inspiration. And then the actual
I
process took much longer.
I
Yeah.
would've picked up on that like you. As
Mhm.
someone who's read Jane Eyre, and Jane Eyre was one of, like, the more memorable pieces that
Mhm.
I read,
Yeah.
during my studies. I would have been right there with you if I was in on the opposite side of the world,
Mm.
saw someone who was trying to learn English, and that's what they ended up
Yes.
finding. I would have been blown away just like you.
Oh,
That's
absolutely. That
so
was so
fun.
inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
I
my
love that.
gosh, and just the whole implication of it, like, cause it's not people learning English through Sesame Street, like,
Right.
that's people learning English through a classic, and, like,
Yes.
something that was written so long ago, where the
Mhm.
vernacular,
Mhm. Yeah.
the prose, the writing styles were so different, even the way of life, someone who, like, that's just talking about, like, the writing, not to mention the overall themes,
Yes.
right? Just narrative of it, and I love that. That is so fun, and it's like, "Oh, what we don't know. Why wouldn't how could
By
like,
that.
why wouldn't that happen?" Right? It's like, "Oh
Mhm.
my god." Now you realize, absolutely, people in other countries might happen upon that and use that. Because 'Cause I'm like, I don't know if I could learn another language by just picking up a classic of a book in their language.
I don't
Like,
think
I don't
so
know if I could
either.
do that.
And I think,
Yeah.
readers, Western readers struggle with Jane Eyre for all the reasons that you said, different
Yeah.
time, a different voice, different linguistic experience, environment. It's hard. People still struggle with it, and
Yeah.
yet they
So
love the
then do
story of
you
Jane.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it's just something about her story, it's like, I don't know if she's easy to connect to, but, like, you still feel for her,
Yeah.
and then when I, like, reading White Sargasso Sea, the story about his the woman in the attic,
Yeah.
I then I was like, "Oh my god." It was amazing, and that just takes it on to a whole new level, and just stuff like that where I'm like again, it, like, opened my brain to a whole new level of it all that while ago. I was like, I don't care about showing my age, pretty much like 20 years ago, 19 years ago. So I'm like, even like again, like 20 years later, and that still just is such a lasting like a part that I remember of what all the bunch of books that I studied during that
Yeah.
time.
I had the very
Yeah.
same experience reading White Sargasso Sea. It was just, what it does is it's its own story, but then it makes you re-see Jane Eyre so
Yes.
differently as well. I
Yes.
mean, you're not thinking of Rochester, you just don't see him the same way again after that. And I thought that was fantastic. It was inspiring for me too. It's the kind of literature that I think that I'm writing is something that I would call literary fan fiction, where you take an original
Mm,
source and you go over it. And that's what Jean Rees did.
that's a good
Yeah.
term. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she totally did that too. She was writing, you can say she was writing fan fiction. She took Jane Eyre and she took a what if question, or she took another character and like, let's give that person a background story. Let's find out.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause she
So,
deserved it too. She
oh,
deserved
yeah.
her own story. Oh my
Oh,
god, like
absolutely.
yeah, and just, like, even like, when I first started this story, it's like, "Oh, he died in the fire," and I was like, "Yep, there we go, we're already going
Mm.
back." Okay, did you, on purpose or not on purpose, put any parts of yourself into your characters? Because like, I do you speak Vietnamese? Or I'm sorry if I don't know the language that they speak. It's just called Vietnamese, I'm guessing?
Yes. So let me clarify. I am not Vietnamese. I'm
Okay.
Chinese, and my character is Vietnamese. I do appear in the story it's a kind of a small part where she's talking about the Vietnamese Jane, that these tourists came up to her bookstore and they were the bookstall and they were talking to her, and then the woman like has a fainting episode and she goes back with them and she helps them, because that actually happened and I just wrote it into the story. So in that regard, I'm in the story. But in terms of my feeling connected to Jane as a
Sorry,
character,
you
mhm,
fainted at the bookstall that you were just
I,
talking about?
yeah, I was dehydrated, very
Oh my
dehydrated.
god.
Got
Oh,
all
I was gonna
woozy.
say, did you need iron? Like, what were you like, what were
No,
you
it just wasn't
and then
drinking
did
enough. It's
you and your
hot. Mhm.
husband really were
Mhm.
like Yeah, oh my god, see, I don't even know. So when you were a husband, did you end up, like, saying, "Oh, hey, do you wanna, like, do you wanna join us for dinner?" Or you just
Yes,
thought maybe,
all that
like
happened. I like had this like woozy fainting spell in front of her bookstall, and then she was like helping to get me back to our hotel, and she hailed a pedicab and for us, and we jumped in, and then she jumped in, and it's like, oh, you're here too. And then we went back to the hotel, and she's like yelling at everybody, giving all these instructions, and we got up to the room, and staff was just kind of hovering over me. It was very embarrassing for me. And my
Oh, I
husband was
bet,
like,
yeah.
he's like watching all this, and I'm like, get all these people out of here. And he just thought it was hilarious because he's not having,
You're like,
people
"Dude, like,
they're
can
trying to
you, like,
like
read the
close
room,
off the
please? Can you
pinching
read
my
me?"
nose. Yeah, so he thought it was hilarious. But anyhow, they all left, and she was there. She's a lovely person. We were talking to her, and we wanted to take her out to dinner to thank her, and she did.
Yeah.
She came with us. We had a lovely dinner with her. She's a wonderful
Oh my
person.
gosh, that's so
Hmm.
special. Does she
It
know
was.
that your experience with her, spurred on, like, inspired your literary project?
We did communicate for a few years after that, but have lost touch with her. So we
Okay,
just
yeah,
have not
sure,
connected
as
for.
happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Wow.
my god, you
But
should just send her a copy of your book, and, like
that would be a
like,
pretty
"Guess
amazing.
who you are?"
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Oh my god, yeah, so if you incorporated yourself into any of your characters of the story besides that.
Jane as a character, she's very resilient. She's very smart. She's very strong. And I think people in general maybe identify with those characteristics that she has. She's a survivor.
Sure.
She's a very, very strong moral core. And we find ourselves rooting for her because she's really so much an underdog in the story. She's loved by
Mhm.
a man who seems unavailable. He's rich, he's older, and it's very unequal to begin with. But by the end, and what's also wonderful about the Jane Eyre story is that he doesn't just love her because he thinks she's like beautiful or rich. She's actually the opposite of that. She's always described as poor and plain. So it's really a meeting of the mind, and they're understanding each other, and just they're both a little broken in their own ways, and they kind of see that in each other. And Jane
Yeah.
comes back at the end, but when she does, she's on a more equal footing. She's gotten stronger. She has money in Charlotte Bronte's version. And Rochester has been injured, and his status is a little bit fallen. So they when they come back together, they do so on a much more equal footing. And I think people appreciate that she wasn't just somebody who was rescued or taken up, but that she made her own choices on her own terms.
And in that time during that time period, that's what got people get like, "Oh, this is a little bit different." Like, this is we're
Mm-hmm.
used to, right? Like,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
obviously women during all like, almost all geographical regions, countries, cultures, all sorts of time periods, generations have obviously we've been through it, we've been struggling, we've been fighting just to be equal, just to be treated equal, and it's to have a heroine like that, a female main character like that, try to be like, "No, I got this. I'm gonna do this. I'm competent." To put it in
Yeah,
modern terms, she don't need no man, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, she's just,
absolutely.
"This
Yeah,
what I could do
yeah.
by
Hmm.
myself."
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
love, that was, like, such a powerful thing at
Mm.
that time, for sure.
Yeah. We can definitely see her as a kind of a proto feminist before that became a thing.
Yeah, before it was, like, a term, right?
Hmm.
Before people
Absolutely.
put a label to.
Yep. I do think of
Go
this
ahead.
as alternative outcomes. One
Yeah, like alternative
possibility,
timelines, right?
yeah, one possibility was that Jane and Rochester, they lost their child, and it could have been the two of them looking at his grave. But because of her somehow magical intervention, the child the child survives, but somehow she doesn't. There's something sacrificial about that. So then at the same
Yes.
grave, it would be the father and the child looking at kind of Jane's grave in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was what I had in mind, that these
Oh,
are
okay.
like alternative outcomes.
Okay, so I do want to chat about Vin, because you
Mm,
first introduce him to us when he's like on his shift, and it's very short. It's a very short introduction. And then when I got through the like towards the end where we get more into his story, and the fact that he was like all these pictures of like mother and child is all a
mm,
lie. He has a certain point of view. He's bitter about it. And then
mm,
once we realize that's him, that's his story, I'm like, oh my God, like that makes so much sense. Oh my God, poor
mm,
baby. I was like, oh, because I'm like, I
mm.
got 2 little boys. They're like almost
Oh,
9 and 5.5. They're like elementary school age. And
great
so I
ages.
like as a boy mom, yeah, I don't God.
Mm.
And then
I
so
had
as a
girls.
boy mom, I'm like, yeah, oh, okay, there you go. See, I'm like,
Mhm.
we can get into that too, like the sisterhood of motherhood. Yeah, I just as a boy mom, I was just like, oh God, I wanted to give him a hug. I wanted to
Mhm.
I felt so bad for Trang. I was like, your father Martin, you're trifling douchebag. I was like, that's another thing I
Mhm.
kind of want to touch on because a lot of the commentary, the common like narrative that you include is people like religion obviously is a huge part of this story, all of their stories, but I've noticed that they're like all it's just a commentary on the victims of people who are either suspicious or superstitious or are so reverent or are like cut and dry, like black and white about God and religion because it's like a missionary and then it's the priest and then it's finding all of these like it's following out like obviously with all the points of view religion or people of that faith Christianity, all of that, it's plays such a huge part of it, but then we also see the repercussions of that. We see the
Mm, mhm,
consequences of
mhm,
those beliefs from other people,
mm,
and that's one
mhm,
of the things
mhm,
I noticed because it was, like, heartbreaking, and then, like, I was raised Catholic, I'm just but I at
mm,
this as I got older, I'm like, I have such different views about it where I just can't reconcile, like, I'm pro-choice and also just institutionalized religion it's to me, it's problematic, and to me, there's just, like, way too many their voices are very loud for with almost no backing other than, um, wanting to impose their beliefs.
mm,
So, that's one thing I noticed. I wanna explore that, like, how you incorporated that into, like, the fact that so many of their stories were tied to religion without their control.
Yeah, that was a theme. It was because religion was so important to many of the characters. Just kind of starting with going to India as missionaries. That's already a kind of a big thing. And then people in India being on the receiving end of that. One thing I wanted to be sensitive to, and it just kind of came up as I was also researching a lot about the history of missionaries during that time, is that there wasn't just one school of missionary thought. And I thought Saint John St. John, I think they call Saint John St. John, his version of missionary work was to try to have the faith come from the people who lived there. He felt strongly that it had to be local, that it couldn't be imposed. Religion couldn't be imposed from the outside, and that's why he's always trying to learn the language and to preach in the vernacular. So he's much more kind of thoughtful about how conversion, in order for it to be sustainable, really has to be homegrown. It can't be from the outside. And Jane observes this. It's one of the things that she starts to respect him for. And then, even though she herself doesn't talk a lot about religion, she gets in a position where she accidentally converts somebody else, which has intense repercussions in that person's community once that happens. That's difficult for Jane to process. So religion is very important to lots of people in different ways. They struggle with it, and then they have different versions of it as well. Some, not all of it, like a traditional Catholicism. Some of it is much more of a almost of an imaginative spirituality that doesn't really have a kind of a specific name to it, but a belief that sustains these characters, helps them to see the world
Yeah.
in a particular way.
I like the
So,
percept like,
mhm,
the interpretation of the scriptures or the beliefs, and then it
mm,
just, like, gets carried away, right? Like
mm, mhm.
and I think I wanna believe that some of these in your story, their intentions are good, but all at the same time, I'm like, "Mind your own business." Like Like this,
Mhm.
and these people who have no idea, like, what it but it was the
Mm,
story of Abba and Jane that was that it was I thought that was, like it was kind of funny, but also, like, a little heartbreaking, right? Like, it
mhm,
was
mhm,
because Jane was just being honest. She was just like, "What does it mean to her?"
mm,
This is how I see it." And then Abba, like, loved that. She was like, "Oh my god, yes, and that makes so much sense, and, like,
yes.
that's sounds like something that I can look to." And
Mhm,
then
mhm.
just the men in the village were like, "This is unacceptable." And I was like, "Oh my god, these men ruin everything." I don't know.
Yeah, Jane should have
And
just been in
that's, like,
charge.
that's one of the things where you'll kinda laugh if I will send you my
Mhm.
notes because I think that's, like, really funny.
Oh,
I you'll probably
I
get
would
a
love
kick
that.
out of it. Yeah, because
I
that's
would.
one of the things where you'll laugh at. I
Mm,
also wanna talk about Vin's story that was, like,
mhm,
oh my god, I
mhm,
don't like, I can't relate to him, but I felt for him the most, I think,
mm, mm,
because he's just, like, as a child, he's a product of the situation and he had no say in anything, and, like, because of a result of people making decisions for him and thinking that was the best thing, but then he continues to get bullied. Okay, I'm gonna read I wrote it down because I thought this was, like, so
okay.
beautiful
Mhm,
in his point of view. It was like his errors in English reminded him of the cracks he tried to cover up to show that he did belong, that he wasn't broken inside. I was like I wrote, "Holy
mm,
shit, is that poetic?" I
mm,
was like
mm.
it was so beautiful, and that was, like,
Thank
just
you.
I felt like that was just such a powerful thought on his part, but it explained so much, right?
Mm,
There's so
mhm,
much there's so much packed into that statement,
mm,
and I felt for him, not just, like, him as he's, like, he doesn't really know his identity. He doesn't really
mhm,
know the truth about anything, where he came from, and then also, like, he has fragments of his memories, and then he's homosexual. He's attracted to men, and that's a whole whole 'nother
mhm,
layer of him feeling kinda
mhm,
especially
mhm,
during that, like, or at
mhm,
least years leading up. First, before I continue on to that, it was implied what was the inexplicable connection between Ed and Vin? Because I know Ed was, like, testing him to see, like, "What are you seeing? When I'm saying this stuff, what are you seeing?" He was trying to see if he was also, like, a traveler. Who was Ed supposed to be? Was he supposed to be Edward? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I see the last part as, in some ways, the most straightforward retelling of the Jane Eyre story, the love story
Okay.
parts, where young person meets older, more experienced person. They It's a kind of a meeting of the soul and of the heart, of the mind, falling in love, being betrayed. He's already married, leaving, and then finally feeling
Okay.
like they needs to come back, needs to reconnect. So
And
those are
that's
the
what he said,
main
"I'm gonna
story
find
points.
you." Oh my god.
Mm, mm,
Now I'm like
yeah.
now you see him like, "Oh my god," like, now it's connecting. Okay, thank you. I'm
Mhm,
so glad I got that because I'm like, I guess I didn't want to assume, and then I was
mm,
like, "Okay, I gotta figure this out." So thank you. But yeah, just talking about Vin, I just wanna talk about him. I loved him. I
mm.
wanted to give him a big hug, and I
Oh,
felt for
mm,
him and
mhm.
just what he went through and just what you put him through.
Put him through the ringer. Mhm, mm.
Yeah, and
Ah,
just,
yeah.
yeah.
I in many ways, he's my favorite Jane. The one I feel also kind of most protective of. I think you're saying you feel that way a little bit too, because he's a child. He's a child who, like, just kind of went through lots of a sense of abandonment. He thinks his real mother is not his real mother. He thinks that the real mother is off in Ho Chi Minh City, and he's being raised by his aunt. So he's always felt abandoned in that way. And then just being taken to a whole new environment and having to survive. That's again was straight out of Jane Eyre, because the first half of Jane Eyre is about a young orphan girl in this school for orphans, where it's very difficult. It's always cold and not enough food, and the teachers are mean, and the other kids are as well. And then young Jane has to kind of survive in that very kind of unloving environment. And she does, because there's one other girl, Helen, who befriends her and gives her this something that she can connect to. So that whole part, which is half of Jane Eyre, and then the other half is the love story. They always seem like almost two different stories to me. But young Jane needing to survive in the school environments had always been a very powerful part of my experience of reading Jane Eyre. And so that gets recreated in my book with Vin having a similar kind of school environment where he has to like fend for
Yeah.
himself, but he has this friend who is looking out for
Kenny,
him,
yeah.
Kenny. And yes, this is kind of part of his finding strength and independence, and that will help him through the second half when he meets somebody who seems to like be able to see him in a way. He feels seen by Ed in a way that he doesn't, certainly not with his previous lover. But here's somebody who like sees him and treats him much differently than the previous
I
boyfriend. And this
loved
is
yeah, I loved what you did with their, like, developing flirtation, especially Ed with the sketchbook, and he's like, "Oh, you drew me younger and taller and hotter." And then he's like, "Okay, my turn." And of course, Vin is, like, mortified, and I was like, "Oh my god." And but
hmm,
then he drew it, and he's like, "Really? I know I'm skinny, but a stick figure?" I love that.
yeah.
I would love to see,
Mhm.
like, if you continue, like, to write more, I love your funny side, your humor that you
Oh,
stick in there,
I
'cause,
do get the humor
like the
part
little
too. I had fun with those.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna ask you some fun questions before we
Hmm,
sign off here.
sure.
During the 4 versions, the 4 Janes, which character would you go to if you needed to plan a party?
Oh, okay. The second Jane was tasked with planning a party, which turned out to be a disaster, but then a successful party, maybe because of the disaster. So I probably would have to say, you seem to have some experience at disastrous parties that somehow end up being great parties. So it'd be her, definitely.
Or, like, you could count on her, right? You ask
Yeah,
her
yeah,
to, and
yes, yes.
she'll do
Mhm.
it. If
Yeah,
you're a handsome priest, it gives a little extra boost.
absolutely.
Uh, which one would you go to if you had to prep for a first date?
Oh, wow. These are hard questions. Prep for a first date. Okay. Okay, it's not going to be the first one. The second one had help from the sister prepping, so she probably would not be a good prepper herself. I'm thinking that Vin has a good sense of aesthetics, being an artist. So I would put myself in his
Oh,
hands.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that about him where he was an artist, and it was still part of him no matter what. Even if he couldn't find himself wanting to draw or, like, he couldn't find that spark, he still saw the world in a certain way. I love that.
Yeah.
And then and then which would you go to if you needed to hide a body?
Oh, that would have to be the third Jane, I think, because she seems to have access to different times and places. She could just like maybe pop off somewhere and find a nice little place to like in the mountains or something. Yeah, Jane
Like, she
3.
knows she's like, "I know nobody will ever find them here," right?
Yeah,
Like, she
right. Or in that particular time frame. Yes, that's a good place to put that body.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I like to ask authors these, like, fun random questions, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw this at her anyway."
Okay.
Like, it was, like, totally opposite of the vibe that that
Yeah.
that you had. Okay, so one more this is for you personally.
Okay.
What name would you never use for a female main character or a male main character? Or you both?
That I would never use. Oh, oh, huh.
Like, if you have any
Um,
strong feelings like, "Oh gosh,
mhm.
this was an ex, I'm never gonna use that name," or this is my kid's name, I don't think I could ever use that name in a
Oh,
novel," or just a name that you don't like.
every time I think of one, I think, "Oh, what's wrong with that one?" Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Bruce. I don't know why. Bruce. Yeah, just that.
I'm sorry, I love how much you're struggling with this, and then you came up with Bruce.
And then I called Bruce up. But yeah, now that I feel very strongly now that Bruce will never appear as a character, maybe a villain. Bruce isn't a
There
really
you go.
villainy name, is it? Oh, we'll see. No Bruce's.
No Bruce's. Even it yeah, he's just not creative enough. It's not impactful enough. It's just like
Mm,
Bruce.
it's
Bruce.
just Bruce.
Okay. Can you think of any, like, name for a female, for a woman that you think you would never go for?
I not that I it's not that I don't like this name, but I don't think I'd ever have a Winoma female character because everyone would think Winoma Ryder. So it's like, oh, so I can't use that name. Everybody will have that first association.
That is one of those, like, very particular names that of someone right away, because that's what we connect it with that only other time that we've heard that name, right?
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah. It's a
absolutely.
lovely name, but
So I
it's
get you. I get
very connected to a very specific person.
Yeah.
Not like
Yes,
Bruce. And
absolutely. No, I
anybody can
agree,
be a
and I could
Bruce.
see that too. I'm thinking like Bruce Lee or maybe a Bruce
Hmm.
Wayne or Bruce,
Oh, now you're
like,
finding some good Bruces.
um,
I no, yeah, no, those actually aren't bad Bruces.
Bruce Wayne is a little complicated, right? Like, he's a little got a little more depth. So he's like, what, an
Mm.
anti-hero maybe? No, not quite, because he doesn't I think at
He's a little
the
bit,
bottom of it, he doesn't yeah, maybe a
a
little
little
bit.
bit.
Okay. So, what do you hope readers get out of For Janes?
I hope that if they maybe haven't read Jane Eyre before, that it would inspire them to maybe pick up that book out of curiosity. And sometimes I just tell people, just read Jane Eyre and be done with it. It's such a great book. And but I think all readers, I think or hope, will get out of it inspiration from a heroine who is independent, resilient, strong, stands up for herself. And I think we could all take inspiration from those attributes.
100%.
Mhm.
But even, like, in any time period, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, across space and time and across genders, across generations, across
Mhm.
like, there's so many even if there's just so many people, almost everyone that's just, like, one of those
Yeah,
things that kinda remind me, like, we're all human, right?
yeah.
We're all
Mhm,
human,
mhm. Yeah.
and we all I feel like there's so many of us, a majority of us encounter those
Mm,
things,
mm.
those situations, those self-doubt, self-worth, just self-awareness that we could use some of that, right?
Yes,
So, like, I
absolutely,
love that. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mm,
100%. Yeah, for sure. So, one of the last questions, like, going back to you, because you have to navigate tough themes and sensitive topics and maybe potential trigger warnings, content
mm,
triggers.
mhm,
What do you do to take care of yourself, to, like, get yourself in and out of the zone, make sure that you're not falling too deep or
mm,
getting too
mhm.
close to some of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
seriousness?
I see that. I think my writing schedule keeps me on track that way because maybe rigid may not be the right word, but I have a way of doing it at a certain time, and that's a way of helping to maybe contain everything to do with writing happens in that time. In the morning, like an hour, I want to say an hour and a half, but I'd be lying. I'm actually right closer to 45 minutes a day, and so that's why it takes me so long. But just having things kind of contained like that helps a lot.
Kinda like a hard start, hard
Yeah.
finish.
Yes.
That's great. I love that. Okay, so Marian Yee, what are you working on? What's next? Anything that you could talk about without getting in trouble?
So I'm working on another work of literary fan fiction. So this time the source material is Shakespeare's The Tempest. And the story is going to be it's going to be an exploration of climate change, environmental collapse, and it's really exploring the relationship between humans and nature. I think those are the kind of the themes I'm going to be
Mm,
working with, and then using the Tempest as a kind of something to play off of.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely take care of yourself with that one too, because I
Oh,
imagine you could
yeah.
go down some rabbit holes and
And
just even research in general or just, like, looking at the world around you and being
yeah.
like, "Oh
Mhm,
my god."
mhm,
That's because that was one of the things where I was like, I'm wanna be aware of current events and issues and stuff, and
mm,
because
mhm.
especially in today's day and age, we could just get pulled into so many different directions, but
Yeah.
even one of the things where I was like I was wrestling with myself, my husband and I were like, "Okay, do we want a third?" And I'm like, "The
Mm,
planet is dying, like, do we"
mm.
Like, that
Yeah,
was, like, one of the
yeah.
things where just a hard, like, "No, I don't think it's" aside from my
Mhm,
second born being enough to handle, like, so I was just like, "No, I think we're good." But yeah, that was one of the
mm.
things where I was just, like, reminding myself, like,
Yeah.
it's there's no planet B, and
Yes, this
this the
is
planet that
mhm,
we're leaving for
mhm,
generations, and
absolutely. This is
it's
the one
gonna
we
be
have to
really
take care
close
of.
to a point of no
Mhm.
return. Yeah, absolutely. You said you had girls, how many do you have?
I have 2 girls. I should call them young women now.
Okay, and what's the age
So
I was gonna say, what's the age gap? How old are they? If you don't mind
3
sharing.
3.5 years apart. One is
Okay.
26, and the other one is she's gonna turn 30 at the end of next month, so young women.
Oh gosh.
They are lovely
I
young
was gonna
women.
say that's a kind of a little big slash big milestone for you too as a mom. You're like, "Oh my
Absolutely.
god,
Mhm.
my first child is gonna be
Mhm.
30," like
I know, it just time just flew by. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
No, my mom, she has my older sister from her first marriage, and so she had me and my brother, like, late in her mid-30s, mid to late
Mhm.
30s. So she's, like, 73, and I'm, like, gonna be 40 next year. So it's 'cause do they have kids or anything? Are they married? Um,
The older one is married, but no kids, not yet.
okay, 'cause the thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the I'm sure you notice this, like, with your own you growing up and having children is like, "Oh, now that I'm leveling up, now that I have children, and now that I'm growing up and, like, learning more about myself as a mother, as a partner," and then it kind of helps you look at your parents in a different
Mm,
light, right?
mhm,
Like, now you have a little level of understanding, and
mhm,
now you are like, "Okay, this makes sense, and that makes sense," and it's like, now I understand, I give them a little more grace of these are just their personalities, and they did the best of what they
mhm,
could with what they had, you know what I mean? So it's like,
mhm.
I it's just things like that. That's what that reminds me of,
Oh,
and it just makes me reevaluate what kind of mom do I wanna be, like,
mhm.
what effort do I have to make that doesn't come naturally, and
Yeah,
it's something that I
yeah.
struggle with because 'cause I'm like, I never saw myself as a mom, but, like, everybody tells me, like, "No, you're doing good, you're doing great, like, you have the personality for a mom." No, it's like, "No, I don't." Like, because especially because they're 2 boys and they look like straight up fair skin, blonde hair, and that's also an implication because 'cause I'm, like, half Mexican, and so I definitely wanna make it I wanna
Mm.
keep that in mind too, is
Oh,
like,
yes.
yeah, and
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
white,
Mm,
and for you to understand your place in the world and understand the place of others, and
mm.
just
Mhm,
so it's just
mhm,
like I feel like
mhm,
so much
mhm,
pressure, even though I was like, "Okay, I
mm.
could just take one day at a time." But I'm just like
Absolutely.
but just
Yes.
things to keep in mind, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I did have a question for you. Are your boys readers? Do you or how do you encourage them to read? Because sometimes
So,
that's a
yeah, I
struggle
mean, they see
with
me
kids.
Oh, I know. Yes, they see me reading all the time.
Mhm,
My older one, he doesn't go to it as like a thing, like his activity that he wants to do. He's more like my husband in a way where he likes video games. And
mm,
we'll do it. Okay, we'll play video games with him, like a fun family thing sometimes. But for reading, like he loves the Dogman books.
mm,
Whenever there's a new Dogman book coming out, he like sees it, he gets excited. He's like, "Mom, I want it." And even at school, he like a reading time or the
mm,
library time, he's good. He doesn't show any
mhm,
disinterest. He'll choose his time, even like in a classroom. He'll be like, I just want to sit here and read.
mm,
So he does it like on his own terms. He does draw. If we're at home, he's like, I'm not in school. I don't know. You know what I mean? So
mm,
he doesn't use it as a hobby at home. The younger one, I think he's gonna be a little more drawn to it. He's a little more like the more creative, the artsy type, because he's the one who likes to draw, he loves to paint, and then because he's entering kindergarten, like, so he's just
mm,
learning to read, spell his name, and
mhm,
recognize words, so he's still there, but I'm like I'm looking forward to him being, like, my reading buddy, you know what I mean? To encourage him to read, I read to them occasionally before bed, or I will always buy them books. Like, toys are another story, but I tell them, like, you don't even have to like, if you want a book, no question, I will buy it for you.
Oh,
But
that's
they've got,
awesome.
like their, like, little yeah, they got their own little sets of series and stuff, like hand-me-downs, and I
Mhm.
try to encourage it, like, they got their own little bookshelf, but it's just they see me reading, so I feel like that's, like, just overall a very good way to, like no,
Yeah.
like but then my older one, when he gets an attitude, he's like, "You're just obsessed with books." I'm like, "Yeah." Like like you like books are amazing. They're a way to relax, they're a way to explore, they're a way to like escape. For example, in your story that I really enjoy like historical fiction because I feel like it's just so fascinating to learn other like parts, like creative ways of a story of
Mm,
real events that are like really important that we don't aren't introduced to in our education, but then also like stories of people who I'm not like them at all, who are not like I have
mm,
no idea what their
mm.
life was like
Yeah,
AAPI or BIPOC or LGBTQ. Like I'm like I'm a cis white female, like I'm half Mexican, but I look like so white. I look like I hopped off the boat. So I'm just like really enjoy that part of it, that opportunity to learn about
yeah.
stories
Me
from
too.
regionally, like stories that I would not have known about had I not picked up this book, right? Yeah, that was a long-winded way to answer your question. I'm like, my 2 kids they're just so different, but I don't wanna, like, shove it down their throat, but I guess I just
Mhm.
make it available to them,
I
and
think
just
that's
they see
awesome.
me.
Yeah,
Ye
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Are your
Uh,
girls big readers then? Or
So,
how do they feel about you, like, being, like, a published author now? And
oh, they're really proud. They're very supportive. I say my older daughter is a bit more of a reader, or she spent more time doing it. But the second one also reads, maybe not as much or as often, but she will read, and she will always be working on a book of some kind.
Mm,
So it's part of their lives, and I'm happy about that. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
maybe they're not reading as much as I am, but they're reading. They're reading. They read as kids, and they're still reading as adults. So very happy about that.
good.
Mm,
Yeah, kinda because I think that one of the things it's like it's pushed on them in education, like the curriculum, but I feel like what a lot of people don't realize is, like, reading is just such a private thing, and it's
mm.
okay, like,
Yeah,
you find whatever piques your interest, find whatever makes your heart like, "Whoa," or,
yeah,
like,
yes.
even if it's, like, an emotion that you have a hard
Mhm,
time with, like, with
mhm,
me, I've been straight up pissed off at books, like, where I don't know if I should recommend this because I felt so strongly or
mm,
because it pissed me
mhm,
off. I was
mhm.
like and so there's just yeah, it's such an intimate,
Yeah,
private thing where
right.
you don't have to, like you're not gonna have to write book reports your whole life. You could just pick up something that you're interested in and then keep it to yourself, or you could find out who else has read it. Or like
Mm.
audiobooks, right? You gotta commute or you're doing your chores or you wanna go for a run or a walk,
That's
put
a
on an
great way. Yeah,
audiobook
that's a
and
great way to get a book. And thank you for having a
absolutely.
podcast where you're like getting books out to your audience. I think that's awesome. Like just
Oh,
introducing readers to new things. That's so important. That's so great.
I like all types of genres, and I like that I'm able to help you all promote your work
Yes.
if it's not romance or if it's not romantasy. It's just like I love a good thriller. I love a good historical fiction. And the more I read, the more I realize like, oh, that is actually one of my favorite genres. And there are stories that like stick with me and there are conversations that stick with me too. No, and I no, you're welcome and it's awesome and I love what I do. I love the opportunities that I have because even if, like, I don't know, if I for some reason I wasn't doing this anymore, I would definitely miss it because 'cause I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, I get to read them, and then I get to bug you guys about it and be like, 'Excuse me,' like,
Yeah,
I have a
what a
bone
great
to
job.
pick."
Yeah, because
So, absolutely.
we don't get to ask Bronte what she was thinking, but I wish we could.
Oh god. Oh god, all the sisters, be like, can
Mhm.
I just, like, have a chat with all of
Yeah.
you?"
Yes, yes.
Like, have a list of
Get you onto the
questions, like,
podcast.
absolutely. Okay, so, Marian Yee, where can we find you online and on social media?
I have an Instagram and I have a website, marianyee.com. So you find me there. Visit me there.
Perfect. I know I follow you on Instagram and I got your website and I'm just like creeping on you a little bit, but absolutely. I love that I could just like keep up with everything that you got going on. So Marian Yee for Jane's that comes out on June 30th. Marian, thank you so much for your time, for your
Thank
answers,
you.
for being patient with my questions
Thank
and
you so much.
exploring all the yeah, absolutely. Just exploring your experiences and all that good stuff. And if and when you are ready to promote another title, feel free to come back. I'd love to chat again.
I would love that too.
And there you go. That was Marian Yee talking about her book, For Janes. That book is available now. Check out the show notes to see links where you can find Marian online and on social media and where to purchase the book. In the show notes, you'll also see where to find Cantina Book Club on your favorite social media book communities, such as Bookstagram, Book Talk, BookTube, Threads, Facebook, and more. And I would love and appreciate if you could hit that follow or subscribe button so that you are never miss out on book reviews and author interviews. If you have any book-loving friends who are looking to get more out of their reading lists, please share Cantina Book Club with them so that they may find upcoming releases and interviews with authors. Another way to help this podcast is to head over to your favorite podcast player and give Cantina Book Club a rating and review. It helps me reach more potential listeners and fellow book lovers like you. And that goes for any podcast that you listen to. It's one of the easiest things that you can do to help out. If you need book recommendations, you can reach out to me. I'm always excited to share recent favorites, pretty much any genre that you might be interested in. Or you can head on over to cantinabookclub.com to read more in-depth book reviews. While you're at it, please subscribe by entering your email on the website so that you could get reviews and episodes delivered directly to your inbox. If you want to support Cantina Book Club even more, you can donate by finding the form on cantinabookclub.com. Whether it's a one-time donation or as little as $1 a month, I seriously appreciate the support and will share my appreciation by giving you a shout out on the show. And finally, one of the best ways to help authors promote their works is to head on over to Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub, Storygraph, wherever you find reviews and recommendations for books. Find that title that you love, show the author some love, so that they can keep writing stories that you love. It's one of the best ways to help those platforms promote their work. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next time. Cheers.